Week 9 of the NAI football schedule brought us a lot of fun games. There were some blowouts, too, as well, and there were some teams, I think, that just wanted to take out a loss from last week on the team that they played this week as well, and a lot of excitement as well. We're going to talk about that. Week 9 schedule, we have the top 5 performances from the weekend, too, our Bet the Barn segment at the end. There's a lot going on. But, one of those games was a really, really big game, and some would call it an upset. However, I know that the coach of the team who won is fairly adamant about it not being an upset. And I'm going to bring in Christian Kaposy now, who's the voice of the Cumberland Phoenix, who come away with a very big victory on Saturday. Christian, thank you for stopping by the program tonight. I really appreciate you being a part of it. And you get the win, 35-33 over previously undefeated Campbellsville, a conference win as well on top of that. So talk a little bit about that. Tell us your overview of the game as a whole.
Yeah, fun game yesterday in Lebanon. And first off, thanks for having me on. Such a pleasure to be able to talk about the Cumberland Phoenix. And all the good thing is you talked about with Coach Tim Mathis post-game. Super excited, definitely, after a come-from-behind victory and a roller coaster one at that. Cumberland had been on the road for 4 straight road games, a bye week mixed in, and so they hadn't played at home in 6 weeks. They were ready to get back to Noakes-Lassiter Field and really to get back to their winning ways. They lost 2 in a row to end that road stretch, a loss at Bethel, a loss at Georgetown, and then nothing like homecoming being against a 6th-ranked team in the nation in Campbellsville. But slow start early on, both teams kind of trading punches. Cumberland able to get up early 3-0. They recover a fumble on the opening drive of the game, but really had a hard time getting the end zone in the first half. They got a couple red zone drives where they had to settle for 3 and down 10-6 at half, and then kind of disaster struck early third quarter. Cumberland goes 3 and out. Campbellsville blocks a punt, and then all of a sudden, we're a minute into the third quarter, and the Tigers are up 17-6. And it kind of had some of those feelings that Cumberland have been in some of those games recently where it went against them, and they just couldn't really regain control. And fortunately, somehow, some way, they were able to late in the game. They go into the fourth quarter down 27-12, and then rally off 23 unanswered points. And just the momentum certainly shifted. The offense was able to finally strike a little bit. Jake Parker had a big hand in that, and also the run game as well for Cumberland. And defense, too, getting stops. It had to be a complementary style, down 15. Offense putting points on the board, and then defense getting some timely stops, which is not easy against the Campbellsville team that's averaging 42 points a game. But an opportunity where Cumberland scores 23 unanswered. You feel like you're in a good spot up 35-27. You score a long touchdown. But I talked about the strength of that Campbellsville offense. Tigers with no timeouts, less than 2 minutes left, drive right down the field, score with 4 seconds left to make it 35-33, and then obviously have to go for 2 trying to tie it up. And I've been doing Cumberland games for 4 years. I would say probably the play of my existence doing games on the radio for Cumberland. 2-point conversion where Campbellsville dialed it up, looked like they had a really good play going towards the right side of the field on a little bit of a reverse, and saw green grass in front of the ball carrier, and then all of a sudden, Chaz Hunter comes out of nowhere for Cumberland, meets the ball carrier at the goal line, forces a fumble out of bounds, and denies Campbellsville the 2-point conversion. And Cumberland holds on for a 35-33 win, and then jubilation there at Lebanon for the Cumberland Phoenix to get their first conference win. You get a win on homecoming. You get your first win at home. Obviously, like I said, they haven't played in 6 weeks. It was a fun night for sure at Noakes-Lassiter Field.
That's homecoming in its truest sense, too. When you've been gone that long and you bring it back home. When you talk about this, it's kind of neat, too, I would imagine, for a broadcaster to recognize very quickly, hey, this was a good call. This is something that's going to stay around. And, of course, obviously a game that the folks are going to remember for a long time as well. When you're down 27-12, though, heading into the fourth quarter, I mean, you look over the sidelines. I mean, was anybody hanging their heads, or did you feel like there's still a chance here?
I didn't get that sense because even if you go back to the week prior, Cumberland on the road at Georgetown, the bugaboo there for the Phoenix, they turned it over 5 times, and 3 of the 5 turnovers resulted in defensive scores for Georgetown. And they've got the ball 2-minute warning last week in Kentucky with a chance going in to try to make it a 1-score game and then throw a pick 6 late, and then all of a sudden it's a 3-score game. So they had been in similar scenarios recently, and the key word that Coach Mathis has said a lot this year and in years past is the word finish. And he thought in recent weeks they hadn't finished enough, and somehow, some way, down 15, they were able to finish up to the last seconds of the ball game. against a very good Campbellsville team.
Yeah, it did come down to the final seconds, and the defense, like you alluded to, of course, getting that big stop on the 2-point conversion attempt there from Campbellsville. Jake Parker, you talked about him. Starting quarterback in this game, it's his third start, but another third is the fact that it's the third different starting quarterback for the Phoenix this season. Let's talk about Parker's numbers really quickly, and I want you to talk about the quarterback situation. He was 22 of 34, 284 yards passing on the night, 1 passing touchdown, threw a couple of picks as well, but he also carried the ball for nearly 100 yards, 99 yards on 16 carries, and had a couple of rushing touchdowns as well. His play was instrumental.
Yeah, so big, and it kind of goes back to me into August before the season even started. There was a true 3-way competition for the starting job. Zach Holtzclaw had been in Lebanon for a couple years. He backed up Luke Holloway and really just bought his time, had been with the program. You had Jalen Apston, a transfer from Murray State that's a Lebanon kid. He played at Lebanon High School and is, if you look back at the statistics, one of the best quarterbacks probably without a doubt in the last 50 years, had 50-plus touchdowns, over 5,000 yards at Lebanon. So he's the hometown kid. And then you got Jake Parker that comes into the mix. He's originally from Georgia, been at a couple different spots, most recently Judson University. And so all summer long, they really gave all three an opportunity to try to prove themselves. And after the competition, it was Holtzclaw that won the battle. But they felt that throughout they had depth at that position, like they do a lot of other spots. But Coach Mathis will tell you it's one where he thinks of many other levels of football, not just at the NAI level, many NCAA teams, high school, and I mean maybe the pros too, where to have three capable starters like Cumberland did, and they had to start 3 different quarterbacks in 3 weeks. Holtzclaw got hurt at Pikeville a few weeks back. The next week, Jalen Apson gets the nod, and then he goes down against Florida Memorial. And then, like you said, Jake Parker made his third career start as a Cumberland Phoenix yesterday in the win over Campbellsville. But Jake's got a very interesting story. Like I said, he comes from Georgia. He went to the same high school that Trevor Lawrence went to. And I've read stories where, as a middle schooler, he went to those practices as, Trevor Lawrence being the quarterback at the high school team and watching a guy that would go on to play at Clemson and now playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had that to kind of look up to. And he's got a lot of college experience, and it certainly served Cumberland well here in the last couple of weeks. And like you mentioned, he was known for probably being a better passer, but his legs have been a very capable part of his games here the last couple of weeks as a starter, and especially yesterday finding the end zone. And the highlight of maybe the day for him was a 70-yard rushing touchdown. But you talked to Tim Mathis, that 70-yard touchdown allowed Campbellsville to touch the ball again, one that they might be okay with a 69-yard run and maybe slide down at the 1 or something like that next time.
Exactly. I think that happened more than one place in the country on Saturday where it's like, good. Okay, stop.
Yeah.
Stop right there. But as it stands, they still come away with the W. We're here on Midwest Sports Net. College football this week is the show tonight, and Christian Kaposy is joining us. By the way, if you're joining us live, please let us know in the chat. Shout out to Dave. The Stangs got back on track. We'll definitely hit that. And Matt, it's good to be with you tonight. But Matt, I know the Comets did not. They didn't really soar very well, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. We're talking about the Phoenix right now, who do, in fact, rise up. And Saturday was a great day to be a Phoenix, right? So with that in mind, one other player I want to mention, and, we don't always talk about the kicker, but you have to here. Jake Cantner, 3 for 3 field goals. He was 2 for 2 on extra points, 11 points overall. And Christian, in a game like this, truly every one of those kicks was important.
Yeah, Jack had a great game there against Campbellsville, and especially, too, I think a hidden part of that, one stat you didn't bring up, were the touchbacks, where Campbellsville had a couple good returns yesterday, and then late in the second half on a couple of those scores where Cumberland's able to, fight their way back into the game. They didn't have to really suffer field position-wise because Jack was able just to belt it through the end zone and make sure the Tigers started at their own 25 every time. But, yeah, Cantner was so clutch, especially there. A lot of people kind of forget after the long run by Jake Parker that Cantner had a potential game-winning field goal with roughly 3 minutes left. And then it so happens Campbellsville throws a pick, and Parker a couple minutes later runs down the length of the field. But he had a kick, a big one to make it 28-27. There late in the fourth quarter, but Cantner's been very solid, and also Nolan Gottlieb, the punter for Cumberland. Special teams has been something that's definitely grown over the last couple of years for the Phoenix, and very much so part of what Tim Mathis will talk about, 3 phases, offense, defense are the 2 that definitely come to mind, but special teams such an important part as well, especially, for some of these wins that Cumberland's gotten this year. Cantner along with Gottlieb have played very, very well.
from your perspective, and you just talk about the opposition on Saturday, the Tigers, of course, led by Jet Engel this year, the transfer from Kentucky Christian. Talk about his play. He's been instrumental. We've used that word a couple times, but he has definitely been instrumental in where they have gone over the course of this season, too. And his play on Saturday night, pretty solid, too.
Yeah, we've got very good playmakers around him, too. It definitely starts with Trey Bass, very versatile in the backfield. Had roughly over, I think, 600 yards rushing going into yesterday, and then north of 200 receiving yards. That went way up. He had a couple of big grabs where it set up some screens, and that's how the last drive really got started for Campbellsville. Bass hit a big one, and then able to find the end zone late in that drive. But, yeah, I think, too, the offensive line, very much so a very good reason for, Engel to have as much success as he's had. It's an offense that's very balanced. I mean, playmakers outside, and then Engel. One thing that has kind of gotten Campbellsville a little bit, you look at some of the turnovers, and I mentioned they had the fumble early in the game. It's where Engel and Bass ran into one another, and then he had the pick late in the contest that Cumberland was leading by 1 at that point. But Engel, along with several other these Mid-South Conference quarterbacks, really have stood out to me in 2025. Especially when he got to go up and kind of take over the reins from a guy like Jagger Gillis that had done it at a very high level for Campbellsville. And certainly you got to be a very good signal caller if you're taking orders from a head coach that had done it at such a high level at Campbellsville as well, too. So it was pretty fun to watch the battle. Had over 950 yards of total offense combined between Cumberland and Campbellsville yesterday. So if you liked offense, I think you liked watching our game.
That's definitely the case, and it certainly wasn't what we got late at night from College of Idaho and Eastern Oregon. So this one, I'm sure, was a lot more fun to call and as a fan to watch as well. From Coach Mathis, let me read it to make sure I say it right here. There's nothing like being a Phoenix on a Saturday night, especially on a homecoming when we took their dates. So you have to love that line. That was a great one. Did you smile when he said that?
It's hard not to talk to Tim Mathis and not smile because, I mean, yes, that one stands out, but then he is a one-liner guru when it comes to those things. But, Coach Mathis, win, lose, draw, always interesting to talk to him because he's going to find a way to relate it to you either in football terms or, something maybe homecoming related as well.
All right. Well, Christian, thank you so much for taking time with us tonight. Of course, Cumberland getting the victory over Campbellsville. Campbellsville no longer undefeated now. And Coach said it wasn't an upset. I know there are a lot of folks outside of Lebanon that might think it was, but we'll go with what Coach said here right now. We'll take it further. As far as the show's concerned tonight, it wasn't. It was just a great win for the program. So thank you very much. I appreciate you being on. And where do they find you? Where do they listen to you?
Absolutely. So Cumberland Sports Network, we have a Facebook page, and you can always find our broadcast on gocumberlandathletics.com. For those in the mid-state, we broadcast all games on WANT, WCOR, super great partners of us in Lebanon, 98.9 on FM, the FM dial. And then, like I said, social media, Cumberland Sports Network Facebook page, easiest way to follow along with Cumberland Phoenix Athletics throughout the school year.
All right. Christian Kaposy here on Midwest Sportsnet, part of our College Football This Week broadcast tonight. Thank you so much, sir, for being a part of it, and we look forward to getting to visit with you again.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invite.
All right. We'll go ahead and let him go and go on with his Sunday night. Lots going on. Tool Envy in the chat tonight as well, and wow, 5-hour drive. Thought it was an 11 o'clock start. Actually, 1 o'clock start. That's not bad. So let me make sure that we get over here. At least you got to be there for the game. So congratulations, Tool Envy, for that. Good to have you back in the chat tonight. Appreciate getting to see your name come up there. And Robert, was a hard day for Concordia on Saturday, but still go Bulldogs. The Stangs were impressive. And when your quarterback throws 3 interceptions, fumbles the ball, you're not going to win games. No, it's very rarely going to happen, especially against a quality team like Morningside. Good evening. Welcome again to College Football This Week. It was nice to get to visit with Christian Kaposy talking about that Cumberland win. So Campbellsville no longer in the ranks of the undefeated, and there is a full slate of college football to talk about. Let me mention one thing really quickly, and this just right at an hour ago, this online caught through the social media ranks. I know it's Division I, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. Brian Kelly has been let go as the head football coach at LSU. So Division I coach, another Division I coach gone. This is, I think, 10 now, midway through the season. And I mention it here on this show in particular because these coaching carousels have their effects. And each of the last two winning coaches for the national championship in the NAI has moved on, one to Division II, one to Division I. And so we have to keep these things in mind. We have a lot of great coaches that we talk about here on College Football This Week, specifically during our NAIA coverage. And it's one of those things you hope that your coach doesn't get caught up in it, because I sure enjoy talking about them here and about all the good football that is going on here. All right, Leo checking in. Excuse me. Thank you very much for checking in tonight, Leo. It's good to see your name on there as well in the chat. Let's talk some football. And we're going to go through all of it, and we'll hit some high points along the way. We'll talk about the top 5 performances, and then we'll see how we did as we bet the barn this week. And a couple of folks in the chat who did well enough to get their names mentioned as being the winners this week. We did only 3 instead of 4. Next time that happens, guys, you got to let me know. I left one of them out, and I'm actually not disappointed in myself now, as we'll talk about it a little bit later on. One game on Friday, that was Texas College and Louisiana Christian, the opposite of a lot of offense. As a matter of fact, Louisiana Christian's only offensive touchdown was in the fourth quarter. The Wildcats win 12-7 over Texas College, and Texas College had a lead in this one. Scored a touchdown in the first quarter, drove down, got into the red zone, opted for a field goal attempt, and that was blocked and returned 69 yards for a touchdown. And Louisiana Christian, with the missed PAT, still trailed 7-6, but Texas College never got in the red zone again. Got down to the 21 in the fourth quarter, and it just wasn't enough. The Steers are now 0-7. Wildcats are 6-3. To Saturday's games, and there were 43 of them. Let's head east, and we'll talk about this. Southeastern is now 6-1, still in the mix for a playoff opportunity. The Fire win over St. Thomas 23-17. Southeastern won the first 4 in this series. St. Thomas won the next 4 in this series. And now Southeastern stops that 4-game slide with a 6-point victory over the Bobcats. Curtis Kimmons, 19 carries for 70 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Southeastern held the ball for 37 minutes and 20 seconds. That's going to go a long way toward a win. And by the way, Tool Envy says $54 million buyout for Brian Kelly. Yeah, there's a lot of money being spent to not coach. There's a lot to go into that statement too. How about Kaiser? The Seahawks are 7-0, 45-0 victory over Weber International. Kaiser now 9-0 all time in this series. It was homecoming in West Palm Beach. Yes, that's a theme again tonight. Maybe not as much as it was last week, but for Kaiser, the second straight week to hold an opponent to less than 200 yards of total offense. Shea Spencer, what a great game again. 23 of 28 passing. 82% completion. Not bad at all. 4 touchdowns, no picks. He had himself a day, and the Seahawks win by 45. Florida Memorial, 85. Thomas, 7. Florida Memorial's Myron Levy ran back the opening kickoff, 85 yards. Thomas scores with a 5-play, 37-yard touchdown drive following an interception after that. It's 7-all. And then Florida Memorial with 78 unanswered after that. Pass touchdowns, run touchdowns, kickoff return touchdowns, fumble return touchdowns, 547 yards of total offense. Well, you have to throw in 126 yards of return offense or return yards as well, but they also had 160 yards of penalties, 160 penalty yards in that. It probably could have been 100, but it wasn't. Tedrick Wilcox, the freshman from Atlanta, getting his second collegiate start, and he just absolutely blows up. 17 of 29 passing, 259 passing yards. Had that 1 interception at the beginning, and then 8 touchdown passes after that. Wow. Nigel Osborne with 11 carries for 115 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. 85 points, which is a school record for Florida Memorial. It's a single-game record, and it was on Coach Michael Jones' birthday. So that's not a bad way to celebrate the birthday as well. Okay, we're getting a little bit of Brian Kelly talking here. That $54 million buyout. How about this? A North Dakota native and a son of the Comet assistant coach is on the LSU staff. And this is where maybe you have to throw up some prayers right there too, because it looks like very soon he's going to be looking for a new job. Probably will make it through the end of this year. I can't imagine them not retaining a staff as it is and getting an interim coach for at least the remainder of 2025. All right. I had to take the headphones out because we're through visiting with someone live that way. Still visiting with folks in the chat, so definitely you want to stick around for that. Ave Maria falls at Warner. The Royals get the first win of the season, and it's week 9 in which they do it. 33-7 over Ave Maria held the Gyrenes to just 96 yards of total offense. The number of the day was 3. Warner threw 3 interceptions. Ave Maria lost 3 fumbles, and both teams had 3 sacks. Michael Ryan for Warner, 16 of 29 passing, 209 yards, 1 touchdown, but he threw 3 picks as well. To the Appalachian, where Point defeated Rio Grande in the first meeting between these two schools, 21-14. That was the final. Point's defense held Rio Grande to just 132 yards of total offense, 112 through the air, 20 rushing yards. But to the Red Storm's credit, they score 14 points here. They'd scored 12 points in the previous 6 games combined. So 14 points, it's a step in the right direction there. Samir Wiley was only 14 of 24 passing for 85 passing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, but all 3-point scores came on the ground. Samir Riley with a touchdown, Trayvon Copeland with a touchdown, TJ Howell with a touchdown, and they're able to put up 21 points on the board. Kentucky Christian falls to Union Commonwealth. The Knights scored a touchdown to go up 28-16 with 13:49 in the fourth quarter, but Commonwealth wasn't done. A 12-play, 80-yard drive capped by a Taji Jackson 3-yard touchdown at 28-23. The Bulldogs get a safety, 28-25. They get the ball back in a 9-play, 68-yard drive, and Dominic Jones catches a 16-yard pass from Cooper Wick with 32 seconds left. It's a 32-28 final. Cooper Wick throws for 324 yards in the win. Jackson Wasik, 20 of 30 passing, 248 on the day, 2 touchdowns, but threw an interception as well. And so Kentucky Christian, that second conference loss now is going to make it difficult for them. Reinhardt had the week off, and they're watching this game, I'm sure. Bluefield getting the victory over Pikeville, 43-40. Second win in 12 attempts against Pikeville for Bluefield. So now 2-10 all time against the Bear. Bluefield was up 30-9 at the half. And then Pikeville outscored them 31-13 in the second half, but it wasn't quite enough. Bluefield able to hold on, 564 yards of total offense. Ethan Cash, 20 of 31 passing for 395 yards for the Rams. They finally open up that offense. 3 touchdowns thrown, no picks, and he carried in 2 more as well, 62 yards rushing for the quarterback. Marlon Haywood had 4 catches, 151 yards, 3 receiving touchdowns, and Bluefield gets the win. Pikeville now, 2-5 all time, still not out of the hunt for a playoff spot. We'll talk about that a little bit more on Thursday night as we're going to go over more of those automatic qualifier opportunities, and we may start talking a little bit at large on Thursday night, so don't forget to be a part of that show as well. The game we talked about at the outset, Cumberland 35, Campbellsville 33, and of course it was homecoming in Lebanon, and as Coach Mathis said, they took their dates. That's exactly what they did. Jack Cantner, 11 points on the day. Jake Martin, 284 yards passing, 3 touchdowns he accounted for. Jed Engel, by the way, was 22 of 35 passing, 351 yards, threw 3 touchdowns, but that interception he threw was costly later on. Easton Barlow, 6 catches, 133 yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. To the Mid-South, we're actually in the Mid-South. Lindsey Wilson to 7-1 now with a 38-10 victory over Faulkner. It was, of course, homecoming in Columbia. Tay Saunders, 17 carries, 164 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. And by the way, for Saunders, that is his 5th game topping the 150-yard rushing mark. And so congratulations to him and to the Blue Raiders for the win there. They are still in the hunt for a playoff spot. Cumberland's now 4-4, stopped a 3-game slide with a 34-10 victory over Bethel. Juan Bullard Jr., 12 carries, 66 yards. He had 3 rushing touchdowns in the win for the Patriots. To the Mid-States, and we're in the Mid-East right now. Indiana Wesleyan now at 6-2 with a 56-17 victory over the Yellow Jackets from Defiance. It was, of course, homecoming in Marion. Arjun Lothi, wow, he has gone off in the last 2 games. 23 of 33 passing, 383 passing yards, 6 passing touchdowns with no interceptions. and he's thrown 13 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks alone. Isaac Smith, 11 catches for 105 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. Montez Jones, 5 receptions, 132 yards, 1 receiving touchdown. Drew Dutton, 4 catches, 99 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. Oh, by the way, Josh Clifton, how about another kicker here? 8 for 8 points after. He scored his 237th point, and that is a school record. So congratulations to Josh Clifton, who is now the all-time leading scorer for Indiana Wesleyan football. Taylor, 63. Lawrence Tech, nothing. 661 yards of total offense for the Trojans. Alex Ambergi, 5 of 9 passing, but for 166 yards, 2 touchdowns. He threw an interception on the first possession, but he was solid after that for the Trojans. And Jedediah Galvin had 5 carries for 129 rushing yards, 2 scores as well. Siena Heights broke the pattern. They had lost one, won one, lost one, won one, lost one, won one, and now they've won 2 in a row. 45-21. The Saints will go into, well, the sunset as this is the farewell tour for Siena Heights this year, having never lost to Madonna, now 6-0 all-time against the Crusaders. By the way, records set in this one, too. The Saints set a single-game sack record with 12 sacks on the day. Greg Pradina had 4 of them, an individual sack record for the Saints, too. Braylon Himmeline, the quarterback, 19 of 27 passing, 252 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. A big, big game for the Saints, who are now 4-3. And we'll talk about their Mideast record a little bit more on Thursday as well. They are still in the hunt. This season may not be over for them after the regular season. How cool would that be for Siena Heights to make it in the postseason, make a little run there in their final year? Marion comes off the loss from a couple of weeks ago and takes down Olivet Nazarene 44-36. Marion now 9-0 all-time against the Tigers from ONU. Marion lost in the season opener to Division II Indy and then has rattled off 7 straight since then. The score was tied 17-all at the half. You knew this was going to be a tight game. 30-all at the start of the fourth quarter, and the Tigers come up with a score after that, followed by an Elijah Prince 95-yard kickoff return for the touchdown. Then Marion forced a 3-and-out. Montese Clay took the punt 40 yards back, puts the Knights in good position at the Olivet Nazarene 22. 5 plays later was Keegan LaBelle with an 8-yard touchdown run, and Marion had the insurance score of 44-30 at that one. It winds up being a score of 44-36. So Marion now undefeated, still in the Midwest. Olivet Nazarene with 1 loss in the Midwest now as well. Keegan LaBelle, 19 carries, 39 yards, but he had 3 rushing touchdowns. That was big for LaBelle. And Christian Reed for the Tigers, 30 of 48 passing, 368 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Didn't throw any picks, but it was a little bit more Marion in this contest. And Olivet Nazarene now 5-2 on the season. St. Francis is 6-2. 28-27 over St. Xavier, went back and forth throughout. Turns out it is a 2-point conversion opportunity that fails, and that was Dominic D'Ambrosio for St. Xavier. 12 for 30 passing, 181 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. He threw 3 picks in the game. He also had a couple of rushing touchdowns, too. He counted for all 4 of the scores for St. Xavier, but could not get it in, punch it through for those 2 points, and St. Xavier falls to St. Francis of Indiana. Again, 28-27 in that one. St. Francis of Illinois, 3-4 now on the season, and they get a win, 48-0 over Judson. St. Francis now 6-0 all-time against the Eagles. 5 offensive touchdowns, 1 pick six, recoveries by both their kickoff and punt return teams, and 1 other fumble recovery. It was just a great day on offense and defense for the Fighting Saints. Nathan Mall, 17 of 26 passing, 252 passing yards, through 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. And Judson now firmly in the middle of a 17-game losing streak. We're going to take a breath now. I will, at least. I hope you do as well. A little drink of water. And it gives me a chance to say hi again to all of you who are watching live tonight. Even if you're watching the on-demand, let us know from where you're watching and for whom you are cheering. We know a lot of these who are watching these already tonight, already in the chat, but maybe you're watching live. You haven't gotten into the chat just yet. Let us know from where you're watching and what NAI team you're going to back throughout the remainder of the season. 3 weeks left in the regular season, and the playoffs are going to be here just before you know it. And so here we are. We're going to get to a game Robert's talking about, so I'll save that for just a moment. Grandview, 7-0. 9-0 all-time against Mid-American Nazarene. It did not look like that was going to be the case all the way through. Second straight game for the Vikings to fall behind by 14 in the first half. Too much Grandview again. Second straight week for that. It was 32-28 the final. Mid-American Nazarene falls to 5-3 overall. But one of the things that needs to be pointed out here, this was not a divisional game for either of these teams. So at one point, I'm watching this, and Mid-America Nazarene, again, has the 14-point lead, keeps the lead through the bulk of the game. Grandview fights and claws back, just like what the Vikings did against Peru State last Thursday, as a matter of fact. And you're looking at this going, well, is this going to hurt Grandview? First off, it's not the defending national champions. One loss is not going to keep the defending national champs out of the playoffs. That's not going to happen. But the other thing is, for Mid-American Nazarene, it comes up as an L now, but it wasn't a divisional game. So still opportunities. That Baker loss still hurts, but there's still opportunities for Mid-American Nazarene. Keep that in mind. Again, we'll talk about it a little bit more on Thursday night. How about Dalton Van Pelt? He really was the rock for this team, other than the defense stepping up and making its presence known again for a second consecutive game in the second half. Dalton Van Pelt, 13 carries, 116 yards, 1 rushing touchdown, and it just seemed like every time he got the ball, it was an incredible opportunity. Drew Miller had a fantastic game for Mid-American Nazarene as well. As we move to Graceland, it gives me an opportunity to go ahead over here to the comments and say, Charles, watching from Orlando, Florida, but Graceland all the way, and he's going to be in Lamoni this weekend. I have been to Lamoni and been to the campus once up there at Graceland. It's a great campus. The basketball gym is one of the most unique that's not a problem. It is a unique place to watch a basketball game. Most unique's not right. It is a unique place to watch a game. And Charles, let's get to that as we look at Graceland. They get the win, 31-19 over Peru State. Peru State 4-4. It's just really the epitome of a 500 season for the Bobcats. Graceland coming back, getting the win, and C.J. Brooks, well, the starting quarterback at the start of the year, we know he had the injury, and so he's been out since then, out for the season. He was in the booth getting to call some plays and getting to be a part of that, and actually got to get in the headset with the freshman T.J. Shanks to help talk him through some rough points in the game. And when he did, after that point, Peru State was up. Graceland comes back and scores 31 straight points. Again, they fell behind 13-0, scored those 31 straight. T.J. Shanks, his afternoon looked like this: 17 of 32, 236 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, threw a pick, but he had a rushing touchdown as well. And Javon Miner for the Yellow Jackets, 23 carries, 119 rushing yards, and he had a passing touchdown too. So add that to his credit along the way. Lots of rushing touchdowns for Miner. He's really been a big part of that offense and helped fill in the gap for C.J. Brooks once he went down. But it's nice to see C.J. having an instrumental role in what the Yellow Jackets are doing there. And Brooks, you're right. Every game, it's been more than 100 yards for Javon Miner. Of course, now he has that passing touchdown to his credit as well. It's not a loss of a season. Long way still to go, but there's a lot that this team can build on. And so we're wishing the best to CJ. And the Yellow Jackets, again, get the 12-point victory at Peru State on the road. We are staying with the Heart, and this one's in the South. Benedictine now 7-1. William Woods now 1-7, and the Ravens pull off a 78-3 victory. They outscored William Woods last year in the 2024 season finale, 86-0, and now the Ravens have outscored the Owls 164-3 in the only 2 games in which they've played. Benedictine's now scored 50-plus in 5 of the last 6 games. Jackson Dooley, 9 of 12, 75% passing there, 218 yards. He didn't have to do that much on the day. 4 touchdowns, got everything taken care of in the first half. Titan Osborne, 3 catches, 98 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns for him. The Ravens now at 7-1. Baker, 4-3, and this one is going to be a big matchup here in just a little bit. Baker and Benedictine, that's on the way. 4-3 now. Baker gets the win, 42-34 3 at Central Methodist. Baker scored the first 42 points. By quarter, it was 14, 14, 14, and 0. They didn't need those points in the fourth quarter. Baker also had a fumble recovery for a touchdown, a fumble recovery for a touchdown, a punt block for a touchdown in each of those 3 respective quarters. Just a big day. They didn't need Truman Julesgaard as much. They did get 14 of 20 passing from him, 151 passing yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Very big again for him. 6 carries, 67 yards. He had a couple of rushing touchdowns as well. He was accountable for all 3 of their offensive touchdowns, so not bad for Truman Julesgaard. St. Ambrose gets the win, 47-14 over Culver Stockton. We mentioned on the show on Thursday night, whichever of the 2 of these quarterbacks had the best game, that was who we thought would probably have the better day. Well, it turns out of Alec Ponder and Liam Thornton, St. Ambrose's Alec Ponder had the better game. 21 of 34 passing, 241 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and a rushing touchdown. Liam Thornton, on the other hand, 23 of 41 passing, 268, 1 passing touchdown, but he threw 4 interceptions as well. And that really summed up the day for St. Ambrose. Zaire Wilcox, 19 carries, 161 yards rushing, 1 rushing touchdown. Trey Jenkins, 17 carries, 81 yards, but he had 2 rushing touchdowns. And how about Caden McDermott? Get this, 6 tackles, but he had 3 interceptions on the day. Shout out to Caden McDermott. And the Fighting Bees go to 3-5 on the season with the win in divisional play. William Penn gets back on the winning track, 7-1 now on the season, 44-21 the victory over Clark. William Penn 6-0 all-time against the Pride and Destin Lauren. Well, he just continues to add to what he's been doing for the Statesmen. The longest play from scrimmage for William Penn, a 98-yard rushing touchdown. It was the first score in the game. He had 23 carries for 201 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, a couple of receptions as well. And Sterling Ramsey II, who, by the way, was responsible for the previous longest play ever for William Penn, a 95-yard touchdown pass. He was 18 for 33 passing, 285 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks. The Statesmen are 7-1. Missouri Baptist, 9. Missouri Valley, 7. There you go. Missouri Valley also broke the string and broke the pattern. They had 1-1, lost 1, 1-1, lost 1, 1-1, lost 1. They were due a win. They did not get it. Ian Zoner, a 52-yard career long in the second quarter. That was a field goal and 3 points. He had a 29-yarder also in the second quarter, 3 more points for the Spartans. And then how about this? He had a 25-yarder with 11:09 remaining in the fourth quarter, 9-7 the final, and the Spartans get win number 2 on the season. Shout out to another kicker in Ian Zoner and what he did. Morningside and Concordia. This one in Sioux City, and I know we have some folks in the chat who this was a very important game. So we'll go back up here, and Robert said, okay, let's see if we can read this here. I'm not by any means placing the blame all on one person. You win as a team, you lose as a team, but I've seen enough from Stark to think that maybe he's not the guy. Do you have to make a change? It's a really good question, Robert, and I don't know if you make the change at this point in the season. He's had some good moments, and it wasn't definitely wasn't a good moment on Saturday. That much is certain. All the momentum going with Morningside, and I think one of the worst things that could have happened for Concordia was this. Morningside lost to Northwestern the week before. This was a team that absolutely needed a win, and they definitely got that win. So all the momentum going that way. I'm not ready to bring out the hook and put Stark away just yet, and I'm waiting to see. I can imagine that Coach Daberco is either. It's been a good season for Stark to this point. I understand what you're saying, though, and let's go to the final score as it was 59-21. Morningside 23-1 all-time against Concordia, and they brought out the all-black unis for this one, too. It was a sharp look for Morningside in this one. Zach Chevalier, 28 of 36 passing. How about that? 355 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns, threw a pick, too. Lennox Brown, what a game he had. 10 catches, 96 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, and one rush for 11 yards. And that carry, that was huge. It was a big carry for Brown midway through the game. We're going to go to cough drop number 2. And while we do that, let's go ahead and look at this comment from Dave, who was watching this one, was in Sioux City, I believe, for this one as well. Props to Adam Van Cleve. Played a lot, and to try to help a lot at, I don't know if I'm following that or not, Dave, at Rib to try to help his team. Too bad they lost their starter for the year. Oh, yes, at running back. Sorry. I think it auto-corrected you there and wanted you to talk about somebody's rib there. Yeah, that was a big point, too. They lose Carlos Collazo, who has been huge for Concordia. He's not the only one. There were some other Bulldogs who were injured coming in this game. Adam Van Cleve had himself an afternoon, but it just wasn't quite enough to pull off the victory. And by the way, Dave, I didn't get to Drew's numbers. 10 catches, 177-yard receiving, and just like Lennox Brown, 2 receiving touchdowns. One other player I want to mention is Blake Bellamy. He had an 11-yard pick six in the third quarter. It was the first defensive touchdown of the year for Morningside. That's huge. This defense has given up some more points, I think, than folks think that they should give up, and I might be in that category too. But the defense has held for the most part. They finally get that. He also had a fumble recovery in the contest too. So it was a big day for Blake Bellamy. 22 straight wins now in the series for Morningside. And this isn't the end for the Mustangs. And again, one of those things I know we were going to talk about on Thursday, but let's look at it really quickly here as we have some folks in the chat that Morningside is of interest there. So we've talked about the fact that the schedule is backloaded at Doane, and then the season closes out. What in the world? Okay, sorry about that. My window went away. They're at Doane next week, and then the season closes out against Mount Marty at home and Dordt at home. So the final 2 games of the season at home. That's a big deal. And Morningside may wind up needing all of those wins, including that season finale against Dordt. Speaking of Dordt, the Defenders are now 7-0 and undefeated. They hold on for the win against Midland. The Warriors 4-4. I have to say that Midland looks like one of the toughest 4-4 teams in the country. You just about put the Warriors up against any other 4-4 team, and it's 18th meeting between these two schools. Dordt has now won 2 of the last 3. 17-14 the final. Midland's defense has been solid pretty much all year, except when it played the 2 teams we talked about before. Morningside and Concordia got the best of Midland in a big way on the scoreboard. For Dordt, Noah Strickfadden, who was injured the previous week, shared time with Colton Cruz, last year's starting quarterback throughout the year, but the touchdowns came from the ground game. Preston McCoy and Thomas Fritz, each with a touchdown, and Stephen Linen with a 22-yard field goal that proved to be enough. That was the difference in the game. For Midland, how about this? You score 14 points in the game. Brody Johnson has just gone smooth off on people in recent weeks. 34-49 passing in this one, 376 passing yards. That's not something that's happened against the Defenders yet this year. They hold Midland to just 14 points. Bend, don't break at its finest for the Defenders. Johnson had 2 touchdown passes to Tay Marks and to T.J. Covington, who have been his favorite receivers, it looked like, over the year. But here's the key also. 2 missed field goals, 35 and 24 yards, and both of them in the fourth quarter for Midland. They just come up a little bit short. And back to the comments really quickly as Robert's gotten off the phone. Van Cleve came up big. He's a stud for sure. So, Robert, we appreciate you watching that one. I realize it's going to be even more for you to watch next year as it becomes even that much more personal for being a part of that Concordia team. All right, Hastings 23 at Mount Marty, a 40-yard field goal by Colton Wilmot with 1 second left on the clock. Both teams with good defense, but both teams with drives that pushed on and then were just shut down. Again, a little bit of bend, don't break. Colton Wilmot also with 11 points on the day, not unlike what we saw from the kicker from Cumberland, Kantner. Wilmot 3 of 3 field goals, 2 of 2 point after, and 11 points. Darton Armbruster, 12 carries for 128 yards, had a rushing touchdown. He also had a 60-yard run, too, that didn't go in for a score. Mount Marty kept the ball for 37 minutes and 14 seconds in this game. Ran 70 offensive plays to just 46 offensive plays for Hastings. Wasn't enough. Rugby Riken, dual sports star Rugby Riken, 38 of 48 passing, 79.1% completions, 3 touchdowns, 269 yards for the year, 8 carries for 28 yards, and the Lancers still come up 3 points short. Dakota Wesleyan, 33-14 over Waldorf. It was homecoming in Mitchell, because of course it was. And Waldorf now in, in an NAIA leading 22-game losing streak. For Dakota Wesleyan, Jed Jensen, 20 of 28 passing, 226 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks. Also had 14 carries as well. Briar Cliff, 28, Doane 21, senior day in Sioux City. And the Chargers come away with a victory. Briar Cliff, excuse me. I know, dead air on a live broadcast. I'm going to fight through this, though. Briar Cliff trailed 21-7 in the second quarter, scored 3 touchdowns to take a 28-14 lead late, and got a pick 6 to hold off the Tigers. Sam Hartman, by the way, 21 of 38 passing, 272 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, but threw 2 interceptions, and the last one, unfortunately for Doane, was the one that cost them. To the KCAC. Evangel is now on 5 straight over Avila. 58-0 in the 20th meeting between these two programs. And Chuck Heppola is now 67-35 all-time at Evangel. He is the all-time leader in wins for a head coach, Reed Potts. 19 of 30 passing, 244 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick on the day. Bethany, the Swedes, get the win over Bethel. Guys, I don't know. I'm one of those people, I need my voice, so I don't know what the deal is. Anyway, Bethany, 25-14, stopping a 6-game slide in this series. 4 touchdowns in the game for Bethany, but only 2 of them were offensive. All right. Over here, wow. What do you want to talk about? Pulling back the curtain. Here is the generic throat medicine. And we'll see what that does. 4 touchdowns in the game. Only 2 of them were offensive. There was a punt block and an interception, both returned for touchdowns. Natavius Johnson had the 2 offensive scores for the Swedes. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, 14 carries, topped the century mark in running. So, there we go. Ottawa, 28. Tabor, 21. Ottawa stopped a 3-game slide in the series. No score in the first quarter, and then they literally traded touchdowns from there on out, and whoever scored last was going to win. Ottawa scored last in that game. To Linby, I will go to the comments section and we'll put that up there. A trick my friend from Southern Georgia taught me. Dark chocolate coats your throat and discourages the cough for a short period when you have to talk for a bit. I will definitely, to Linby, I'm going to do that heading into the next broadcast on Thursday night. But this was not happening prior to me coming on the air. So I'm going to have to work on that, I guess. Friends, this was the big game. This was one of the big games, by the way. Morningside, Concordia, that was a huge one. Friends comes away with the win, 42-28. Falcons are 8-0 on the season now with this victory. And by the way, Friends is on pace now to take down the rushing record that they set last year. 5,351 yards rushing as a team, and they are on pace to do it in just 12 games this year. It would mean a trip to the playoffs, but they are well on their way to the playoffs right now. It was homecoming in Winfield. This is funny. It sounds like I'm crying. I'm not. My throat. Cavante Baker, 2 of 4 passing for 50 yards through 2 touchdown passes, no interceptions, had 20 carries, and rushed for 2 more scores as well. Baker had a huge day, and he really should have been 3 for 5. I was watching this game. The weather kept things difficult for Southwestern because Friends is a predominantly running team. That much is certain. Southwestern throws the ball well, and the weather did not help in Winfield at all for homecoming. And I'm watching Baker just run the ball. Then he gets away, breaks open, rolls to his left, leaps up in the air, throws back over his body, and it's caught. And this is a huge play. Unfortunately, there was an ineligible man downfield. Of course there was an ineligible man downfield. This game is not built for passing the ball. That line is built to just block and keep on blocking. And it was unfortunate because it negated one of those highlight plays for Cavante Baker. Friends is crazy. It's an unreal rushing record. And let's go ahead and let's just put some of those up there too. It'll give me a chance to take a breath. Unreal rushing record. Friends is a problem. Friends is a problem for everyone but Terry Harrison. I think that Terry Harrison also is a problem, if you're going to say that. Yeah, it's very much true. And I honestly have seen a team like this. And the team I've seen is Harding. They're the Division II answer for Friends, or maybe Friends is the division, or it's the NAI answer for Harding. It's a ground game. It's all but unstoppable. Harding won a national championship with it in 2023. They've been in the top 5 all year long. I think they're still number 2 in the country in Division II. It is an amazing attack. And if you're not ready for it, it can really stop you up. Now, here's the deal on this, guys. I can throw out those numbers. Let's go back to the game really quickly before we look ahead. Cavante Baker, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. Michael Lopez, 11 carries for 118 yards rushing. He had himself a day. Austin Pratt, only carry of the day, but it was a 29-yard run in one of the important drives. But for Southwestern, Jamie Odom was incredible. Jamie Odom accounted for all 4 Southwestern touchdowns. He was 13 of 25 passing for 212 passing yards. That doesn't sound like much, except for the fact that it was not ideal weather for a passing game, and he still got it done. 3 touchdowns, did not throw an interception, 18 carries for 49 yards, ran for a score as well. Odom was fantastic. There just wasn't enough. And he had to call his own number so many times, but he looked down and he read the field well. He just couldn't get through that Friends defense enough to put more points on the board. Matthew Holthusen, 5 catches, 115 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns for the air. And Joshua Masick, some of his running on that first touchdown drive is what kept Southwestern in that game. So props to Joshua Masick, 5 carries for 49 yards. Friends is going to take on Kansas Wesleyan next week. The Coyotes got a 35-0 victory over Sterling. Kansas Wesleyan now 6-2 on the year. They won 8 straight in the series. Domina de Heaven, 40 carries, 259 yards on the ground. Unreal. 3 touchdowns. Oh, he also had a couple of catches, too. 310 yards of all-purpose yardage on the day. For Sterling, you cannot get past this number. Props to Derek Bean. Your team's getting beat 35-0. The offense is not there, but Derek Bean for the Warriors did not give up. He had 21 tackles. Obviously led his team. 21 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. One of those was a sack, and also he forced a fumble. So props to Derek Bean in the loss. Now let's talk about Friends in Kansas Wesleyan really quickly, and the fact that Kansas Wesleyan, led by Coach Matt Middleton, a part of the staff there at Harding for a few years, even though he was the offensive coordinator there, he knows what's going on and knows and sees this saw what this offense can do. He knows defensively, I would imagine, as well as anyone, how to scheme for this. And this could be a big, big matchup. By the way, I'm going to be there for this one. Midwest Sports Saturday is going back on the road, and I'm excited to get to be in Wichita. and it's going to be a fun day. So we'll be there for friends in Kansas Wesleyan. I am slowing down. This may make for a longer broadcast, but we're going to get through it. McPherson, 7-1 now after beating St. Mary 66-0. Ryan Markarian and the Bulldogs took out that Friends loss on St. Mary this weekend. Markarian, 18 of 24 passing, 75%, 372 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, did not throw a pick. Jaleel Brown, 9 carries for 126 yards and a rushing touchdown as well. Texas Wesleyan had to rally in this one, and they come back and they beat Langston 44-36. The Rams are now 6-2. 8th meeting between the two programs. Langston won the first 4. Texas Wesleyan has won the last 4. The Lions went up 16-0 in the first quarter. They were up 23-13 at the half, and then Texas Wesleyan went on a 31-13 run in the second half. Tony Roberson with 14 carries for 119 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. You cannot, though, just skim over what Aiden Hooper did. Langston's quarterback went 32 of 54 passing for 467 yards through the air, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, unfortunately for the Lions, in a losing effort. Hardin Simmons, 68, Nelson, 14. Hardin Simmons is now 6-0 on the year, 685 yards of total offense. That's all we need to say about that one for the Division III opponent. Wayland Baptist is now 5-2 on the year, 45-0 over Arkansas Baptist. And Wayland Baptist lost the first 2 of the year to OUAZ and Louisiana Christian. And unfortunately for the Pioneers, they were both Sooner Athletic Conference losses. They've won 5 straight since then. Damon Ford, 18 carries for 111 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Kiamadre Horace, 9 carries for 82 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns for the Pioneers. We've said it repeatedly on the channel, and I'll say it again. Coach Hinojosa's team is a team to watch, and Wayland Baptist is now 5-2 on the season. Can't say enough about the Pioneers and what he's done with the program since he's taken over as the head coach. To the Frontier, where Montana Tech is now 8-0. Sorry about this, Matt. 51-0. Second meeting between the two, Montana Tech has won them both by a combined score of 82-7. Of course, the first one was back in 1981 when I was, the fall of 81, I'd have been a 5th grader and 10 years old. Jarrett Wilson, how about this? 11 of 12 passing, 91.7% completion, 184 yards, 3 touchdowns thrown, no interception. Christian Vetter, 7 carries, 111 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Now, Mayville State had 188 yards on the ground. No passing yards. Threw only 3 passes on the day. No Aiden Marcusson as well. So this was something there. Let's go to the comments, and Matt, let's get your comment on this. In no way is this a dig. A dig, capital D-I-G. Anyway, but comment turnovers put the ball in a T for Tech. Tech is very deserving of their ranking. Yeah, you're right, Matt. And I know that you watched this one more closely. I watched this one off and on, and it was just every time I would turn back over, because I think I had 5 tabs going on at this point in time, plus the ball game on TV, which at this point I think OU was still playing with Ole Miss at this point in time. So that was on the big screen. We've got the computer going on, watching all this stuff too. And every time I would turn it back over there, it was Tech with the ball again, getting the score, and it was one of those things. Now, for our Bet the Barn segment, let's talk about this really quickly. Mayville State did get more than double the rushing yards of what Montana Tech usually gives up. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in the Bet the Barn segment. However, Matt, even if the Comets had put up 300 rushing yards and put 30 points on the board, I think Tech could have scored 80 the way they were going. Now, again, you start putting it on a tee like that, yeah, it's kind of tough to deal with, so that's all right. Rudolph, good to see you. Hello. I'm glad you made it tonight. look at all the stars in the chat. Members are representing tonight. Appreciate that. And by the way, feel free. I'll pause right now as we're still talking about the Frontier and wrapping up this portion of the show. as we're just about to hit the 1 hour mark. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. We'd love you to be a part of the community. And definitely chat tonight as well. Let us know from where you're watching and what NAI team that you are looking forward to seeing do well, not only this week, but every week. And we'll be talking more about that. You can also join too as well and become a member. Lots of members in the chat tonight. Appreciate you guys showing up and being a part of that. Okay, let's start to wrap this up. My voice is going to hold on. Montana Western 65-0, and the Bulldogs, again, one of those teams who was taking it out on the team they played after a tough loss. Jacob Humphrey, 14 carries for 105 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Aiden Lammers, 12 carries, 67 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. And this is one of those things, too. You look and see what Coach Norse did here. There are a lot of names for the Bulldogs on that box score that you're not used to seeing. They saw time in the win at Simpson, 65-0, a 17-game losing streak now for the Redhawks. Marcusson did play. Okay. It was a double number. I wondered about that one. Had the sound down. Probably the Montana Tech broadcast is a very good broadcast, Matt, and I'm sure I would have heard them mentioning his name, but I had the sound down on that one. And so a double number that's going to keep him out of the – okay, someone will have to go back and fix that too. Because I was surprised that Marcusson wasn't in there, but apparently he was. All right, Valley City State, 29-21 over Dickinson State. Let's stop and look at Dickinson State's numbers really quickly. This is a 6-game slide. The Blue Hawks won the first 2 games of the season. They've lost 6 games since then. The last time there was a 6-game losing streak, it went into 2 different seasons. That was 2012 and 2013. The last time Dickinson State had a 6-game slide in one season, I was 1 year old. It was 1972. That is the only other time they've had a 6-game losing streak. Now, we're going to take an even deeper dive on this one just for the fun of it because I like numbers. How about this? Dickinson State actually had a season in which they won no games and played 8 games that season, but it was back when there were ties. They went 0-6-2 in 1947. So, but the last time there was a 6-game slide, and only other time there was a 6-game slide in the same season was in 1972. It's just been a rough year for the Blue Hawks. Valley City State gets the win in that rivalry game. Rocky Mountain, and look at the Battling Bears, undefeated in divisional play, 35-21 at MSU Northern. Rocky Mountain's won 19 of the last 20 in this series. And Trent Novak, 22 of 39 passing, 260 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And a couple more here. Well, we get a 7-0 win for College of Idaho. Still looking good in divisional play at Eastern Oregon. College of Idaho had an opportunity with 6 minutes left. And then Eastern Oregon's Peyton Howe intercepted it, set it up for the Mountaineers. It's scoreless to this point. Back and forth. College of Idaho, one last look. Eastern Oregon gets the interception, and then they set up for a potential game winner, a 49-yard field goal attempt. Sam Lowings blocked it. Deshaun Swafford swooped it up, and 60 yards later, it was a scoop and score. The only score of the game was a defensive touchdown. And get this, offense was so much in short supply in this game, the extra point actually hit the upright and fell in, and they had to go back at replay and find out that it actually did go in. Second game this year that Eastern Oregon has held an opponent to 7 points or less and still lost. They lost to Valley City State 3-0 a little bit earlier this year. Second loss to College of Idaho, by the way, this season as well. The first one in the season opener, which was a non-conference, non-divisional game, 21-17. This is in division. And Southern Oregon, the Raiders now have a win over a team that's not Simpson, 38-14 at Arizona Christian. And Southern Oregon had no turnovers, 407 yards of total offense. Dom Montiel, 22 of 25 passing, 88% completion, 171 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. And Fresh Ison, we talked about him earlier this year. He's back, 16 carries for 100 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. And while we're here, as we wrap up this portion of the schedule, I'm going to give a shout out, even on college football this week, to Southern Oregon volleyball coach Josh Rolfing. He picked up his 400th win this weekend. And not only that, but they did it on the road at rival Eastern Oregon. They took down the number 1 team in the country. Congratulations to Coach Rolfing with the win for Southern Oregon volleyball. It's been a tough year for Southern Oregon football, but the volleyball team continues to roll. All right, take a drink here. I don't have time, or I don't have any Lay's potato chips at the moment, Robert. But we'll look into that because we don't want this to happen anymore. All right. Man, I have some Dakota State notes, but they don't play till next week. How about the top 5? Let's go to our top 5 performances from the week, and we look, and here they come right now. Man, we couldn't fit everybody in there again, so we got as much as we could. Dakota Wesleyan quarterback Jed Jensen. The Tigers now 3-5 on the season. Jensen went 20 of 28 passing, 226 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, had 14 carries for 30 yards. Let me see here. Nope. Cavante Baker, we wanted to get Baker on that list, and, he was just pushed out. There were just too many other solid performances on the week. Morningside's 6-2 record now. Zach Chevalier, 28 of 36 passing, 5 touchdowns thrown, 355 passing yards. Lennox Brown, 10 catches, 2 receiving touchdowns. Drew Sellen, 10 catches, 2 receiving touchdowns. Between the two of them, Brown and Sellen through the air, 273 yards receiving. Just a big, big day. So there's another one right there. We continue on along our top 5 performances. And how about this one? Ethan Cash, 20 of 31 passing, 395 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. And Marlon Haywood, 5 catches, 4 catches, 3 of them for touchdowns, 151 yards receiving. Ryan Markarian went off on St. Mary, 18 of 24 passing, 75%, 372 passing yards, and 5 touchdowns in the win. And you have to have this one. If it's an 8-touchdown day, and it was, and it's the first 8-touchdown day of the season. I think we've had a few 7-touchdown days. I don't think we've had an 8-touchdown day yet. Tedrick Wilcox, freshman from Atlanta, 2nd collegiate start. I don't know how you follow this up, Tedrick. 8 touchdowns thrown, 17 of 29 passing, 259 yards. Congratulations to our top 5 performers. And, hey, Lenny, man, I'm glad you showed up. We had to talk about Lennox in here. Can I say really quickly, and by the way, Rudolph switching back and forth between McPherson and Texas A&M. I don't blame you for that one. There was a lot going on in both of those. And if you're cheering for both of those teams, you had a lot to cheer for in that. I've seen Morningside games, and I have been impressed with Lennox. I thought his performance on Saturday was just another one of those solid performances. I absolutely thought that he did fantastic, and it was just a great performance. So it was nice to see him not only catch the ball, but run the ball well too. 1 run, but for 11 yards, and he looked good doing it. So shout out to Lennox, shout out to Dave. Not Dave. Shout out to Drew. Well, shout out to Dave too. But all of our top 5 performers for the weekend. All right, let's get to the Bet the Barn segment, and let's wrap this up. By the way, Bet the Barn segment, we did only 3. We did only 3 last week, or this past Thursday. We did only 3, and when that happens, man, you guys should let me know. But I will tell you this, the 4th one I was going to do, it was going to be a prop bet, and it had to do with one of the quarterbacks, and it would have been something that would have looked good had he played well. And you know what? He didn't really play that well, and I'm kind of glad that we didn't put that on there because I didn't want it to throw down on him and make him look bad that he didn't have as great a performance. So, Bet the Barn. You know what? Our Bet the Barn performers this week, Robert Whalen and Leo Vitt. You guys got 2 out of 3 on the weekend. What did we do? Well, we had an over-under. Campbellsville at Cumberland, 64.5 points. It was the over, 68 points. Just barely the over. Oh, my goodness. That was close. It's a pretty good line, too, 64.5 points. We'll talk about the other one there. How about this one? Points, 79.5 points. Yeah, it was a little high. Only 70 points scored in that game. I think if it hadn't been wet, a little windy there in Winfield, I think they could have gotten to 80. But, yeah, and Leo, you did miss one. You got 2 out of 3 right. So there we go. And here we go. Final one. Will Mayville State have more or less than double what Montana Tech is giving up? 162.6 a game. It was more than. So shout out to the Comets. They got 188 rushing yards. That's not really something I'm sure that they're excited about right now after putting no points on the board. We'll do the Bet the Barn next week. We'll do it on Thursday night. That's the next time that we actually get to visit live. I'm hoping for at least one or two summits this week. We haven't had a chance to do summits and get to visit with coaches and players, so we're hoping to get at least one summit in this week, maybe two between now and Thursday. If we don't, then definitely we'll get to visit again live on Thursday night. We are heading into week 10, and you know what that means? There's just 3 weeks left of the regular season. I hate that because I just enjoy the football season so much and get to visit with you guys. But lots more into the playoffs, too. And that's when Leo started watching in the playoffs last year. So, Leo, you have to be here for that, too, as well. All right, so let's start wrapping it up. So we have Thursday night. We're going to talk about, obviously, the Week 10 schedule. Big matchups in Week 10 in a number of conferences. We're going to talk about our automatic qualifiers, who has the inside track. We'll probably get some at-large projections in there as well. Love to get to talk with you all about that, so come prepared to talk about those things. We'll have lines for Bet the Barn, and, yeah, we've been getting pretty close on those lines. We've definitely been getting pretty close on those lines. We'll talk about that more. If we have a guest, that'll be great, too. Been enjoying the guests. Oh, shout out to Christian Kaposy. Thank you to Christian for coming on tonight, and what a big game he got to call this weekend. I'm going to read this quote again. Love the quote from Coach Mathis on this one. Saturday night, there we go. There's nothing like being a Phoenix on Saturday night, especially on homecoming when we took their dates. That's exactly what he did. All right. Anyone have anything else in the chat tonight? Shout out to everybody. Let me make sure we get everybody in. Lenny, you showed up late, but I'm glad you got here for that. Robert, hope it was a great Sunday for you. Leo, thanks for being in. Tool Envy, thank you for being on tonight. Matt, thank you for being here. Rudolph, thanks you for showing up tonight and, of course, watching a lot of D1 and NAI stuff. I admit it. Listen, I'm a Tennessee Volunteers fan. I'm in the state of Oklahoma. I am an OSU alum, and the Cowboys are, let's just don't talk about that. The Sooners give us something to cheer for in the state, but I'm a big Volunteers fan, and they looked good again. Their starting quarterback, Joey, has been looking good. Let's see. Rudolph, we have everybody else in here. Have we mentioned everybody tonight in the chat? Charles, thank you for being a part of the broadcast tonight as well. Leo, thank you for being a part. Dave, thank you for being a part as well. Everyone for watching tonight, may I say that you're awesome. God made you well. Seriously, he made you well. We're not perfect. None of us are perfect, but God made you well, and I sure do appreciate you guys coming on. Our community here on Midwest Sportsnet is fantastic, and I just encourage you all to be a part of the community. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do check, see if it's free. It's one of those things. You can also join the channel and become a member. We sure do enjoy our members, and we got some members-only content too, so I'd love to give a shout-out to all of them. Please think about that and being a part of it. Thursday night is live once again, so we're definitely going to be here for that. And Robert, Boomer Sooner, go Bulldogs, roll Tide. I don't know if I can follow you on that one, Robert. But, third Saturday of October didn't go my way this week. But Tampa Bay Bucks too. So good show. Everyone here? We're all good? Everyone good? All right, Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central. And I'm going to pray for, I'll stop with this. I'm going to pray for my voice. I'd appreciate it if you pray for my voice too, because that's, this may or may not be the moneymaker, but Mrs. Midwest Sportsnet would laugh about that, but got to have the voice. Absolutely got to have the voice. So we'll do that. All right. Is that it? We have a new graphic coming up, updated as of our new members. So we got the new graphic coming up. God bless you too, Rudolph. You guys have a great night, and I will see everyone again on Thursday night for sure.